What we're dealing with here today, folks, is the most common scenario I see in mistakes that we farriers make with our horses. And what that is a low angle, long toe scenario, and that's what we have. Oh, and first of all, I need to introduce Dolly here. This is Dolly, and she is a sweetie. And she is a brand new purchase. Kathy here is a proud new owner. This is Kathy Stefanski, and my good friend and client. And Dolly is brand new, and so we're getting things rebalanced and shod in a way that'll work for Dolly. And eventually, before long, we will be having her barefoot. That's where we're going with this whole project. But we have to start with shoes and wedge pads because of the farrier work that's been done here. And she can move forward without stubbing her toes and tripping. And this creates also another issue that all of our horses, or quite a few of our horses, suffer from problems here in the top line when we have a scenario like this happening. The horse cannot break over and go forward because we've got a big old long foot out in front of her. And so what they do is they shift weight to the back end and pick up that weight with the back legs so that they can break over the front ones. And so this is what we're working with. And I'm going to start by just getting these shoes off and measuring some angles and see what we have to start with. And once we get that done, then we will trim the feet and get the best angle I can. Then we will use wedge pads if we need them to make up the rest of it so that we can get her at a proper angle. And a proper angle is what matches these pasterns right here. And we'll turn her sideways in just a minute so you can see what we're talking about. In fact, Kathy, let's go ahead and do that so that we can show her angles. And so I'm going to move her around here. Sweetie, I'm just going to swing you around. Okay. Come, girl. Okay. Okay, so I think, Kathy, if you'll just hold on to your horse. By the way, she has some good training because she handles really nicely, so that's always makes it easy for me. So if you'll look at the angle of this pastern right here and this one, you'll see that the angle of the pastern is here, the angle of the foot is down here. See the difference? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to match the angle of this foot down here to the angle of this pastern here, so that that will be how her skeleton is put together to carry her weight. And now we can get an idea with our hoof angle gauge to what the angle of this foot is. And that is a 52 degrees right there. So maybe we'll have enough foot to where we don't have to use any wedge pads here, possibly. So first thing I do is look for medial lateral balance. So when I start trimming my foot, I'm always looking at trimming it to a medial lateral balance. And we have some toe here that'll come off. And so let's see where we end up after we trim our foot with angle. So we'll make note of that 52-degree angle where we started from. So you'll notice that I'm trimming just toe because I'm trying to shorten our toe and leave what heel that we have here. And so okay, we're at a 54.5. So this is good news. We may be able to, like I say, get there without a wedge pad. So what I'm noticing here on the bottom of this foot, I'm going to point out something using these nails. If you look, we're looking at the white line of this foot. In other words, the laminy, that the distance between these two nails here is the width of that laminy. And what we have is a stretched laminy here. And that's caused because of the long toe, low heel. And that's almost always happens. You'll pull that laminy and stretch it. So we're gonna back this toe up from the top also, and that's going to make and get us in alignment with the bone in the foot. We're always trimming the foot to the bone in the foot, and this capsule can be pushed, pulled, flared, stretched, laminy, all the things that we see one of them here. So we want to know where the bone in the foot is, and the bone in the foot, the first inch of growth on this horse's foot from the hairline down will tell you, will be firmly attached to the bone at all times, and so that will tell me where the bone actually is. So I'll just get a straight line in line with that first inch of growth there down to the ground, and that's going to tell me, then I can measure that and I'll know where my bone is, and we'll have a good angle. So what I'm referring to is I want a good straight hoof wall from hairline to ground here. So that's what I'm working on here. And I pay attention. The first couple of inches of this is periopal right here, and I don't want to come much higher than what I've done right here, because this periopal is what is a moisture barrier in a horse's foot, and it's important that that be there to maintain the proper moisture in a horse's foot. We'll use, okay, now we can see we've got a pretty good shot right here. We've got a little bump. Like again, I don't want to take too much of this off here. So we want a pretty straight shot right down to the ground there. And something that I hear a lot about is hoof dressings. And if they have a periopal, which is the brown right here on this foot, and then the periopal's gone down here where it's gray, if you have good periopal around the first 2/3 of that foot, half to 2/3, they have good moisture in their foot. And my experience, hoof dressings cannot penetrate a hoof wall. And that's something that doesn't happen. That hoof wall is 3/8 of an inch thick and very tough stuff. And so hoof dressings are not that helpful with moisturizing a horse's foot. Where moisture in a horse's foot comes from is from a good, healthy diet and a healthy horse. And so that's where you get your moisture, your good feet. And if you're having problems with a horse's foot, you should look at the nutrition and diet of the horse if you have cracky feet that are in bad shape. Okay. Now, let's see kind of what our hoof angle is. And I'm going to move her so that you can see this angle of the pastern. This angle of this pastern and this foot are pretty much aligned, okay? Whereas you look at the angle of this pastern here and this foot, definitely a noticeable difference. So this is what we're looking for right here. And let me give you, not that I use an angle gauge to determine what my angle is, I use the pastern. But now that we've done that process of using the trimmed it to the angle of the pastern, let's just check and see what an angle gauge would say it would be. And I'm going to put it on the foot. This is how it works. And I'm reading right here, and we're reading a 57 degrees. I'm looking if maybe we can take a little more foot off of this horse, the entire bottom of the foot for length. And when I hold it, I'm careful to how I hold that foot. If you hold a foot like this and all, you cannot see level and all. You have to hold it back here on the cannon bone, let it fall and relax in the line of stride. Then you can look over your foot and see where the level is on this foot. Sweet little mare here that's just totally cooperative about everything. Okay, when I look at this, the level on this foot over here, we're low on the inside heel from the toe all the way back here, and high from here all the way around to this heel. So I've got to balance or level this foot mediolaterally first before I can do anything. So that's always the first order of business, is to balance, mediolaterally balance your foot, then start your shortening process last. And that's after 36 years, I've learned that that's you can get in trouble if you start trimming a foot before you pay attention to your mediolateral balance, because once you trim it off, it's gone. Okay, I'm still working at getting this foot balanced, and I'm having to get some of this sole, and it's rock hard, which we've had very dry conditions here until just yesterday. We had a snow finally. So you can see I haven't touched this foot here. It had been rasped down quite a bit. So I'm cutting a lot off of this side of the foot and just got to level here. So let's see what kind of angle we're at now. And going to have to remove a little frog here, which I don't do normally unless I have to get a measurement with my angle gauge. Okay, there's a 54. We may be able to do this by just taking the, again, we have stretch laminae, so this toe is pulled, what we call pulled. And another word that you'll hear in my industry is mechanical founder. In other words, it's a stretched laminae, but it wasn't from a laminated course. It was from mechanically pulling because of the physics of this foot was all out of alignment. Therefore, it was pulling on this toe. Okay, sweetie. So again, I'm going to get rid of this pulled toe here. Just kind of rasp it off. Okay, I'm going to get a measurement with this. Okay, we're on at a like 57, so that we've got angles that are very similar to each other. So we look at those these pasturing angles and this foot angle, both sides. We have something that will work for this mare, and we're not going to have to use any wedge pads, which I'm real happy to say that. And that's going to make the barefooting process much shorter. Okay, so now that I see I don't need wedge pads, okay, then Kathy and I can have a discussion. Okay, Kathy, we can get some boots for this mare and start her booting process, and she doesn't need any shoes. So you'll wait about 4 or 5 days getting these boots in. In the meantime, let's see if I have something in the truck that'll get her by, some pair of boots. I think we can probably find some that'll get her by here somewhere. And then in 5 days we'll have boots that fit her precisely.
Good.
And we're already into our barefooting thing, and we don't have to wait till 6 months.
Good.
And the extra money and stuff. So, is that...
that sounds good to me.
You're good to go? Okay, so the reason we would prefer a boot over a shoe is a real simple one. A horse's foot, when it lands on the ground, it expands, and then when you pick it up, it does this. This is a typical horse's foot, okay? We can't see that with our naked eye, but we can measure it for sure. So if we put a horseshoe on there, guess what happens? There's no expansion and contraction of the foot, which is what's so important about that expansion contraction. There's several really important things. Is number one, the circulation of the foot. So, and two, it would be the ability to absorb concussion, and that's huge. A horse's foot absorbs like 4,000 pounds per square inch when it impacts the ground at a run. Okay, so it's real important that that foot be allowed to do its job and absorb that concussion. You put a shoe on it, and it limits that ability to absorb that concussion, and it sends it up the leg. And we have a lot of lamenesses in our show world today with that could be avoided if we didn't put shoes on all of them all the time and keep them shod almost year-round, So anyway, so we got two good reasons to not have that shoe on my foot. And so what do we do if the horse doesn't have enough foot or tough enough foot? Well, this is where the boot comes in. And this boot is an easy boot made by the Easy Care Corporation. And it's called a trail. And this just opens up, it slips on the foot, Velcros around, voila, horse walks off and he's protected. And with boots, I just get things good and clean. see here. Snug fit.